Donald Trump has cancelled secret meetings with the Taliban leaders because of a bomb attack which killed 12 people, including a U.S. soldier. The U.S. president tweeted, "Unbeknownst to almost everyone, the major Taliban leaders and separately the president of Afghanistan were going to secretly meet with me at Camp David on Sunday. Unfortunately, in order to build false leverage, they admitted to an attack in Kabul that killed one of our great soldiers and 11 other people. I immediately called off peace negotiations," he tweeted. Well, the Taliban claimed responsibility for Thursday's suicide bomb attack, saying a foreign military convoy was targeted. The blast destroyed cars and shops not far from the U.S. Embassy and the headquarters of Afghanistan's international military force. There's been no let-up in attacks, despite Taliban and U.S. negotiators reporting progress in months of talks hosted by Qatar. Now, a short time ago, the Afghan President Ashraf Ghani praised the efforts of the U.S. and other allies to try to bring lasting peace. Let's speak to Tony Birtley about this. Tony, of course, this tweet by the U.S. president has come as a surprise to many people. Tell us more about the Afghan government's reaction first.
Well, I think officially they're welcoming. Unofficially they're welcoming this move because they've been very critical of what's going on. In fact, last week, President Ghani was critical of the process. He issued a statement saying that, when people are pursuing killing innocent people, a peace process is meaningless. And he's referring to the Taliban carrying on the continued attacks you talked about. They've been concerned about the American situation, pursuing this peace process at a very fast and alarming speed. They're very concerned about all the concessions that the US was going to make in return for very little from the Taliban. And you may remember, of course, that the Afghan government is precluded from these talks because the Taliban refused to directly negotiate with them. So they are now saying that the main obstacle to peace is the continued violence. The Afghan government want a ceasefire, which has never been agreed between the Americans and the Taliban, and they want to hold direct talks. And everybody who knows the situation knows that getting a draft of peace agreement between the Americans and the Taliban is one thing, but the most important thing will be the finite details that have to be waded through between the Taliban and the Afghan government. Lots of questions, lots of obstacles, but I think now, where do we go?
Right. Indeed, where do we go now, especially when the U.S. Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad had said just a few days ago that a deal was imminent. Where does this all leave the peace negotiations?
Well, everybody was saying, even the Taliban, that things were moving in a positive direction. Everyone was expecting some kind of signing before the Afghan presidential elections later this month. Elections that the Americans were against, but the Europeans are for. Those elections will now most certainly go ahead. That gives bona fide credibility to the government, to President Ghani, if he wins, and gives them a very strong position. Where it goes as far as the Taliban is anyone's guess. We understand they're having high-level meetings now to decide what their next move will be. It could be that they take this on board and say, hang on a minute, they're serious, they won't talk to us unless we actually change our ways. So they may change. It may have the adverse effect, and the escalation of the conflict will ensue now. But it's not lost on many people that President Trump is cancelling these talks for the loss of an American serviceman, when each week in Afghanistan, hundreds of Afghan civilians are dying because of this war.
Thank you very much for that update. Tony Birtley live for us in Kabul.